The word clean is one of the most used and least understood words in the entire health and wellness industry. You've seen it on food labels, heard it from fitness influencers, read it in diet books. Eat clean. Clean eating. Clean foods. But here is something almost nobody tells you. There is no official definition of clean eating. Not one. No regulatory body, no scientific institution, no nutrition standard anywhere in the world has ever formally defined what a clean food actually is. So if the entire movement is built on a term that doesn't technically exist, what have millions of people actually been following? And more importantly, could some of what you believe about eating clean be making your health worse, not better? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might completely change how you think about food. Let's start at the beginning. The clean eating movement as we know it today exploded in the mid-2000s, largely driven by fitness culture and later supercharged by social media. The basic idea seemed simple and even appealing. Eat whole, natural foods and avoid anything processed, artificial, or refined. Eat like your grandparents did. Eat things with ingredients you can pronounce. On the surface, this sounds completely reasonable. And honestly, some of the core principles are genuinely solid. Eating more vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, and whole grains is well supported by decades of nutritional science. Nobody credible is arguing against eating more broccoli. The problem is not where clean eating started. The problem is where it went. Here is the part that changes everything. As clean eating evolved, it stopped being a flexible guideline and became a rigid ideology. Foods stopped being just foods. They became morally coded. Clean versus dirty. Pure versus toxic. Good versus bad. And when you attach moral language to eating behavior, you have crossed a line from nutrition science into something much more psychologically dangerous. Think about what it means when someone says they ate dirty this weekend. They are not describing a macronutrient profile. They are describing shame. Research in behavioral psychology consistently shows that the more rigidly someone classifies foods as forbidden or morally wrong, the more likely they are to experience cycles of restriction, guilt, and overconsumption. The very framework that was supposed to make people healthier was, for many, doing the opposite. Now let's talk about what the science actually says, because this is where things get genuinely interesting. Nutrition research operates on a concept called dietary patterns. Rather than looking at individual foods in isolation, researchers examine the overall pattern of what people eat over time. The dietary patterns with the strongest evidence for long-term health outcomes, things like the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, and whole food plant-based approaches, do share characteristics with what clean eaters promote. More vegetables, more legumes, more whole grains, less ultra-processed food, less added sugar. But here is the critical distinction that the clean eating world almost always glosses over. None of these evidence-based dietary patterns require perfection. None of them classify a slice of birthday cake or a bowl of white rice as a threat to your health. They are built on averages, patterns, and overall balance, not the purity of every single bite. Let's stop for a second and do a quick thought experiment. Imagine two people. Person A follows a strict clean eating protocol. They prep every meal, never deviate, experience significant anxiety when eating at restaurants, avoid social events with food they cannot control, and feel crushing guilt on the rare occasion they eat something off-plan. Person B eats roughly 80% whole, minimally processed foods, enjoys a slice of pizza with friends on Friday, has ice cream occasionally, and feels completely relaxed around food with no guilt or stress attached to eating. Who is healthier? Most people instinctively want to say, Person A because they're being more rigorous. But the science suggests Person B almost certainly has better long-term health outcomes, not just mentally, but physically. Chronic stress, including the psychological stress of dietary perfectionism, has measurable negative effects on cardiovascular health, immune function, hormonal balance, and sleep quality. The cortisol response triggered by food anxiety is not a minor footnote. It is a significant physiological event happening in your body. And this brings us to a term that has emerged in clinical psychology over the past 2 decades that you absolutely need to know: orthorexia nervosa. This is an eating disorder characterized by an obsessive focus on eating the right foods, an unhealthy preoccupation with food purity, and significant distress or impairment in daily life caused by food rules. Orthorexia is not yet in the official diagnostic manual as a standalone diagnosis, but its symptoms are well documented, and the clinical community increasingly recognizes it as a serious pattern of disordered eating. What makes orthorexia particularly insidious is that it looks like health from the outside. The person affected often receives praise and admiration for their discipline. Their Instagram aesthetic is impeccable. But internally, they are experiencing significant distress, social isolation, and often nutritional deficiencies from eliminating entire food categories. Clean eating culture, especially the version amplified through social media, has provided fertile ground for orthorexic thinking to develop and be rewarded rather than recognized. Now let's talk about the food industry, because they figured all of this out and exploited it masterfully. The word clean has become one of the most powerful marketing terms in the modern food landscape. A product can label itself clean, natural, or free from without meeting any legal standard whatsoever. Clean label is an entire marketing strategy in the food industry. It means using ingredient lists that appear simple and recognizable to create a perception of health and purity, regardless of whether the product is actually nutritionally superior. You can find clean-labeled products that are high in sugar, high in saturated fat, and nutritionally hollow. But because they use coconut sugar instead of cane sugar, or avocado oil instead of canola oil, they get to wear the clean badge and charge you a premium for the privilege. The clean eating movement, despite its anti-industry origins, has become a multi-billion-dollar industry of its own, selling you the idea of purity while often delivering very little in terms of actual nutritional value. Here is something else worth examining: the concept of processing itself. Clean eating doctrine tends to treat processing as inherently bad, but this is an oversimplification that does not hold up to scrutiny. Technically speaking, cooking is processing. Fermenting is processing. Pasteurizing milk to eliminate deadly pathogens is processing. Freezing vegetables at peak freshness to preserve their nutrient content is processing. The legitimate concern in nutrition science is not processing per se, but ultra-processing, a specific category of industrial food production that involves multiple stages of refinement, the addition of artificial flavors, colors, emulsifiers, and preservatives, and the engineered palatability designed to override your body's natural satiety signals. Canned tomatoes are processed. They are also nutritionally excellent. A frozen bag of edamame is processed. It is also one of the most nutrient-dense foods you can eat. The blanket demonization of processing obscures this important distinction and can lead people to make choices based on perception rather than evidence. So what does eating well actually look like when you strip away the ideology and look at what the research consistently supports? It looks like this. Eat mostly whole and minimally processed foods as a general pattern, not as an absolute rule. Prioritize vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats in your regular eating. Be aware of and moderate your consumption of ultra-processed foods, the ones engineered to be hyper-palatable and eaten in volumes beyond what your body needs. Pay attention to your hunger and fullness signals. Eat in ways that are sustainable for your actual life, your social relationships, your budget, and your mental health. Enjoy food. Sit down with people you love and eat things that taste good without a side of guilt. And recognize that a single meal, a single day, or even a single week of eating has almost no bearing on your long-term health. Your long-term health is determined by patterns sustained over years and decades, not by the purity of any individual food choice. The truth about clean eating is that it contains a genuinely valuable core. Eat more real food, eat less junk, wrapped in a layer of moral absolutism that helps no one and harms many. The goal was never supposed to be perfection. The goal is supposed to be health. And health is not a rigid, anxiety-producing, socially isolating pursuit of dietary purity. Health is dynamic, flexible, forgiving, and deeply connected to how you feel in your body, in your mind, and in your relationships with the people around you. If this video shifted something in how you think about food and health, here is what you should do right now. First, if you have been following any eating approach that causes you significant anxiety, guilt, or social withdrawal, consider speaking with a registered dietitian who specializes in intuitive eating or eating behavior. Not someone who will give you another set of rigid rules, but someone who can help you build a genuinely healthy and sustainable relationship with food. Second, share this video with someone in your life who you think might need to hear it. There are a lot of people trapped in the clean eating cycle who do not even realize the mental and physical toll it is taking on them. And third, subscribe if you want more content like this. We cut through the noise in the health space and give you what the evidence actually says, without the ideology, without the fear, and without trying to sell you anything. Real health information. That is what this channel is about.